I've never been more afraid in my entire life.
I thought, is Todd here? Or is that someone's phone? Is that the real deal?
I feel like he's looking right at us.
I think he is.
Day one, we get in the saddle around 10 o'clock after the horses get gathered. And we're all milling about the trailers as the horses are saddled up, tacked up. And they tell me I'm riding Patience, this red Mustang. And I'm thinking, just hope I stay in the saddle and hope I don't make a fool of myself the whole day.
No eating.
And we get going, and I cannot get the horse to move faster than a walk. And people are giving me advice, telling me to give her a couple kicks. And I'm giving her kicks, and Patience is just plodding along, slow as you like. And I'm thinking, God, I'm gonna get left behind on a pack trip my first day. We're not even an hour into the ride yet. I'm just like, fuck, do not get back there. But we got through it, and day one, we saw some beautiful country. It was like something out of a movie, you know? Then Cecile's like, we gotta go feed him, and she asked, do we want to go ride bareback through the woods to the pasture where they let the horses feed and water after the day? And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to ride bareback. I don't want to fall off. I just made it the last 2 hours. I don't want to fall off now, but I'm like, well, I'm here, so I gotta go, right? So I give it my best, run and jump up on the horse, and I nail it first try. Somebody asked me, do you want to get that again on tape? And I'm thinking, shoot, yeah, I do. I want to get that on tape. But then I'm like, you should not tempt fate. That was clean as a whistle, smooth as you're like, there's no way you're going to get that again. So I just stayed on Patience's back, and we just followed Cecile and all the other horses out into the paddock. And looking at those horses graze out on the paddock, it was like the valley floor and this beautiful river bottom, creek bottom that they're all eating around. And the sun is coming down. And I'm just thinking, yeah, life doesn't get any better than this. This right here is what it's all about.
Yep.
Day 2, I wake up and I am feeling terrible. My throat is sore as hell, and it's scratchy and it's itchy, and I'm trying to drink as much water as possible, and it is not clearing up. But I'm thinking, every morning before we got on those horses, I was nervous as hell to get in the saddle. Every morning, even the last morning, I was nervous, and I had done it for 3 days for now. So Patience is saddled up and she's tacked up. I'm like quiet and thinking, don't fall out the saddle. We got a long day to go. And I'm sick, and I'm like, this will be my luck, right? I finally get to do something I've always wanted to, and I am sick as a dog. But it didn't even matter, I was ready to go. And so we get in the saddle, and it's a long day. We head out through the timber, and we see some more beautiful country like we saw the first day. I've got my sweatshirt on and my glasses, and I've got my binoculars and my water bottle, and I'm along for the ride at this point. And each time I thought about getting in that saddle, it was nervous. It was like before a big game, I was like, gosh, I hope I don't mess up. I'm nervous, hands are sweaty. But as soon as the horses took about 3 steps, all that fear, all that nervousness, all that anxiety went away. It was like the ball was being tipped off in a game, or the kickoff happened in soccer, and everything else was just focus. It was about the journey and the views. And none of the fear was there at all. None of it. I was locked in. Yeah, I was ready. So we go, and it's a long day today. We're seeing brand new country. We're going, I'm thinking, I hope we see something cool. And boy, did we. We saw mule deer on the trail, big antlers. I'm talking 5 a side, velvet still on there. I tried to whip my phone out as fast as possible to get a video, but it was no way. He was in the timber before I could get it. But it was unbelievable. And all day, I'm about middle of the pack, strung along. And Patience she's slow starter. Guess that's why I call her Patience. But she was doing her thing, and we were just going, and I was just enjoying the view, even with a sore throat and a stuffed up nose. But at some point, I lost my sweatshirt. Now, in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal. I don't even remember where I got the sweatshirt from, but I really like that sweatshirt. I climbed the Appalachian Trail in that sweatshirt, went to 4 years of high school with that sweatshirt, a few years of college with that sweatshirt, and I lost it somewhere along the Continental Divide Trail in Montana. And so, when I go back next year, I'm going and looking for that sweatshirt. But all day we were just going, and it was pretty warm too. We were out in the sun, and people were hot, the horses were hot, but it did not matter. It was just like the best thing I could have ever done. And we're going, and it was probably around 1 or 2 o'clock. We had a nooner, or a noon up, as Casey would say. And I bet you never had a noon up at freaking 8,000 feet up, but I did, and it was fantastic. And before we got to lunch, the spot where we got to these 2 mountain lakes, or 2 mountain ponds, and the water was crystal clear, and the dirt around it was a bright red. It was like somebody had taken a picture and just dropped it right in front of my face. And that was awesome. And lunch was awesome. The trip was awesome. Day 2. Day 2 is long though. Day 3 was a rest day for us and the horses. And what else do you do on a rest day but go fishing in the mountain lake? And I was a little under the weather to start the day. We got breakfast, but it didn't matter. I went and I fished. And I'm not a fisherman by any standards, but somebody let me borrow their, and the rain came. And well, can't spend the first Montana storm inside a tent, can we? So, like a fool, soaking wet and changed out of my clothes, I watched the storm from the under cover of some trees. And then the trouble started. Those critters, those horses and those mules, they got away. And they got away for a long time on that third day. And Casey and Cecile, they went and looked for them from dusk till about 12 a.m. So for about 3, 4, 5 hours, they were searching. And we were all back at camp, and we had made dinner. And they had came back at one point around 9:30. They still hadn't found them. They went back out after they got some food. They didn't find them. They came back around 12. And we were like, man, I hope they're all right. And Casey Cecile said they had never gone away this long, and not the whole herd. Maybe one horse, but never the whole herd. So we stayed at camp and just hoped they came back the next morning. And Cecile and Casey left early. And day 4, we sat around, we read our books and sat in the sun and talked while Casey and Cecile were out. And they looked and looked and looked, and eventually they found them, and Casey brought them back to camp. And while they were doing that, Casey had sent a message back to the home ranch, and he told his wranglers to bring up some extra stock so the rest of us could go back on our day out and back trip. And while they were doing that, bringing them up, about 10 minutes before they got to where our campsite was, here comes Casey and all 14 animals trotting along on the path like they hadn't done a thing except be going for almost 24 hours. That was it. So we saddled up the spare horses, and on the 4th day I got to ride a mule. And I have never been more worried in my life about riding that mule. And people say mules are stubborn, they're gonna test you, and I'm like, well, hell, he'll pass the test. I ain't got nothing to give him. This is only my 3rd day in the saddle. And I'm riding a mule named No Name, which is like the best name you could ever have for an animal, honestly. And so I get up on No Name, and my left leg is just a shaking and shaking and shaking like it's an earthquake. Just my left leg, though, just the left one. And I'm shaking, and I'm thinking, gosh, hope this isn't bad. And it was about as smooth as ride as you can imagine. No Name the mule took great care of me. And we went out and back, went to this, the bear cave. And we all got in there, we took some pictures. And I'll tell you what, that hike up 7,000, 8,000 feet, we climbed good and fast and high that day. And I was breathing and wheezing and heaving. I was like, trying to be out in front, Mr. Cool. And I was breathing hard as hell, trying to get up those mountains. But we got up there, and the view was incredible, just like the other 3 days we had.
Yep, undo that.
The last day, the sad day, the day we gotta head back down the mountain. And I'm pretty sure the horses got off one more time, and they had to go look for him that morning. Which was like, what's up with these critters this time? You know, people are asking, are we bad luck on the trip? But they found them, we got saddled up, and Casey and Cecile, they let me manny up one of the packs. Casey gave me an easy one. He gave me an empty cooler to pack up. And I did it. And it was hard, and I was sweating by the end of it. But I got it tied up and manied up, and then we threw it on one of the mules. No Name the mule. He carried my pack down the mountain, just like he carried me around the mountain yesterday. And it stayed on too. And then I tied it up to the mule and its pack, all its pack stuff. And we started on our way back down the mountain. I was back on Patience, my red mare Mustang, and she was as good as you could imagine. And the timber, we rode mostly through the timber that day, you know. Not a lot of open land, but riding through that timber was like going through a movie. It was just unbelievable.
Or get off.